order. Councillor Townsley.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to include item 7E regarding the purchase of a street sweeper, which was added to the agenda today before the start of the meeting.
Been moved by Councillor Townsley, second by Councillor Lidke to amend the agenda to include item 7E regarding the purchase of a street sweeper, which was added to the agenda today before the start of the meeting. Is there discussion? Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Councillor Townsley. Next up, we have item 3, Pledge of Allegiance, and Councillor Townsley has graciously agreed to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance today. If you'd please stand and join us in reciting the pledge.
Every day in my classroom, this is the way we begin the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councillor. Very well done. Next up is citizen comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the council on agenda items or other items they wish to bring to the attention of the council. Citizens are encouraged to discuss operational issues in advance with the mayor. In consideration of others wishing to speak, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Are there any citizen comments tonight? I don't see any. I don't see anybody in the back room, so we'll move on to Roman numeral 5, presentations. Item A, October financial report for October 2023. In accordance with Idaho Code 50-208, there is no oral report on this, councilors. Unless you have any questions, our finance director, Amy Gordon, is here today. Seeing none, we'll quickly move. Number 6. Consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine by the council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these issues unless a councilor so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in the active agenda under items moved from the consent agenda. Councilor Lidke.
I move to agenda.
Second.
Been moved by Councilor Lidke, second by Councilor Townsley to approve the consent agenda. Is there discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Rocky.
Council President Lidke.
Aye.
Councillor Towsley.
Aye.
Councillor Forsman.
Aye.
Councillor Schroeder.
Aye.
Councillor Kleberg.
Aye.
Councillor Spiegelmeier.
Aye. Thank you, councilors. Next up, Roman numeral 7, active agenda. Item A, Business Improvement District Activity Report, presentation by beautiful downtown Lewiston's Executive Director Brenda Morgan on activities financed by the Business Improvement District for the 2023 calendar year as required by the administration agreement. This is an action item. Brenda, I'll welcome you to the floor, to the microphone. It should be turned on. Please introduce yourself for the record and remember to speak up loudly and clearly so those listening at home can hear what you have to say. Welcome.
Perfect, thank you. My name is Brenda Morgan. I am the Executive Director for beautiful downtown Lewiston and the Administrator for the Business Improvement District. In your packet, you should have a report submitted with an update year-to-date of the projects that have been completed, where we're at with the work plan that was approved for 2023, as well as some additional information at the bottom there. Also included should have been the volunteer and staff hours, as well as the general ledger as of the end of November. So I won't necessarily go through everything individually, but I am here to answer any questions if you have any on the items listed.
Thank you, Brenda. Councilors? Councilor Spiegelmeier?
Thank you. Looking at the expenditures, so each year, it looks like you typically didn't use the funds, so do they just roll over every year?
Yes. So if there are projects that aren't either fully funded or we're doing it a portion at a time, depending on staff hours that are available or volunteer hours to be able to actually complete that project, we do just a rollover with what's in the account.
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor Towesley?
thank you. I just want to thank you, Brenda, for the thoroughness of this report. I actually enjoyed going through it, and it had a lot of good stuff in it, and it's the kind of thing that I think the city council needs to see each year.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
It looks like we're out of questions.
All right. Well, if I could just say one more thing, I really do appreciate all the support that I've gotten this year from council, from city staff, to be able to do this function and be the administrator for the Business Improvement District. I've learned way too much that I didn't think I would ever learn. So I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda, and we'll
Thanks,
move on to item B next. Are you going to stay for that? You can, sure, why don't you
I'll
stand?
hang out.
Alrighty,
It's
thank
a
you.
nice spot.
Councilors,
lighting.
next up, we have item B on the active agenda, mutual termination agreement, considering mutually terminating the Business Improvement District Administration Agreement between the City of Lewiston and beautiful downtown Lewiston Revitalization Corporation. Councilors, this action item before you really was developed mutually between beautiful downtown Lewiston and the City of Lewiston after carefully talking about the status of the BID. And I think quite honestly, we had some honest discussions about maybe how things could change to help the BID. So there's nobody admitting fault on anything. We're just trying to look at another way to service the BID. And it appears, I think, after our discussion that we're in agreement that the City of Lewiston is in a good position to further the work plan for the BID. So with that, we're bringing this recommendation to terminate the administration agreement between the two and then have the city take that back over. You have in your packet a lot of information about the duties of the BID administrator. Those are, that's work that the city will take over. We'll add those to our duties in the city. But am I leaving out anything? Councilors, if you have any questions in the meantime, please ask me. I do want to point out from Director Morgan's report that she submitted to us the previous action item. One of the challenges that she's had, you can see it is a very full report and she's been very busy. But part of that too, and I'm just reading from the report here, Brenda, but we talked about trying to get ratepayers engaged a little bit more, you know, including positive or negative feedback. We want to hear from the folks and how we can best do that. So on the work plan, so we're going to pick some of that up too as we move through this. But I see it all as a positive step forward. So councilors, questions, comments, please. Councilor Lidkey?
Mr. Mayor, just wanting to know, will there be continued collaboration with beautiful downtown Lewiston in some way, or would this open it up that Ms. Morgan or a representative from BDL could be a part of the BID?
Brenda, would you like to take a crack at that?
Yeah, sure. The hope is that the BID is obviously going to continue. I think it's slated until January 1st of 27. A lot of the work plan items would need to involve BDL or volunteers that BDL has provided. And I certainly don't expect to, you know, walk away from this and not participate anymore. We definitely want to give the city support in any way that we would have normally done with the Business Improvement District. So I guess on my end, yes, I would hope that that relationship would continue.
So I think it's fair to say, though, a lot of the downtown activities that BDL does, you'll continue doing those, and we can work together on those. The other ones that, the other items in the work plan is probably where the City of Lewiston is going to do the heavier lift. And Brenda has a wealth of knowledge on these projects, and will continue to tap into that knowledge as we, you know, fulfill the work plan. So.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to help transfer that, get as much information to the city as needed. Obviously, we have all the ledger, the work hours, all the history of our meetings that are public knowledge. I do understand that that might take a little bit of time to kind of go through for those that maybe don't know where we're at. But like I said, I'm more than happy to be available. One thing I did want to note is on the Area 3, which is business promotion and neighborhood marketing. BDL has chosen to not continue downtown tailgate. And I did put in here that the funds that BDL would normally use for that event are going to be reallocated to help support royalty, 4-H, the fair, any way that we can. However, that is not part of the BID plan, the work plan as it stands right now. So I just wanted to make sure to clarify that.
Thank you, Brenda.
Mr. Mayor?
Counselor Towesley?
I'll make the motion to approve the mutual termination agreement between the City of Lewiston and beautiful downtown Lewiston Revitalization Corporation.
Second.
It's been moved by Counselor Towesley, seconded by Counselor Lidke to approve the mutual termination agreement between the City of Lewiston and beautiful downtown Lewiston Revitalization Corporation. Is there further discussion?
Mayor,
Counselor Forsman?
I just had one question. Did you guys not get a lot of people to show up for the tailgate one, and that's why you felt it
Yeah,
wasn't necessary?
Yes, the issue with participation for that particular event is we kind of took a risk right between rodeo and the fair and that open weekend. And there's too many folks that are traveling that are focusing on both. And so instead of trying to fight that, we want to be able to support it instead.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. I think we're out of questions again, Brenda. Clerk Brockie?
Council President Lidke,
Aye.
Councilor Towesley,
Aye.
Councilor Forsman. Aye. Councilor Schroeder,
Aye.
Councilor Kleberg,
Aye.
Councilor Spiegelmeier.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Clerk. Again, thank you, Brenda. Next up, under the active agenda, we have item C, deferred maintenance funding request, requesting funds from the Building Infrastructure Reserve account to be used towards high-priority facility deferred maintenance projects. This is an action item, and we have our facilities maintenance supervisor with us here tonight, Valerie Warren, from the Parks and Recreation Department. And Valerie, please introduce yourself for the record, and remember to speak up loudly and clearly so those listening at home especially can hear what you have to say. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, or thank you for having me. My name is Valerie Warren. I'm the facility supervisor for the city of Lewiston. And I wanted to come tonight to kind of do an overview, a little bit of an update, and then ask for some funding for some things that we've got lined out to work on for this year. So to review from April 2023 presentation, I came and did a long-term deferred maintenance plan to address the deferred maintenance in the facilities that are no longer safe. We decided to work through a lot of those items. I'm here today to address some of those this year to get done. And I presented a lot of the needs during the 24 budget department process, but it was requested that we come and ask individually for those throughout the year. This is a slide of the deferred projects list that I gave you in April. And in red are the items that I am either working on or in the works or completed. You can see there's quite a bit of red highlights that we've been working on, but there's still a lot that's just in black. So these are the list of the items that I'm asking for. I will go through after we quickly list these and give you detail on them. There's the Lewiston City Library lighting replacement project, City Hall windows, Carnegie Library exterior restoration, traffic control shop roof, police training center roof, and fire department station work. So for the library, which is, it's helpful that we're standing here. The dome lights that you see running through a lot of the building here, the ones in the back up there, they were put in place in phase 2. They are the updated commercial LED version. The other ones that are back over here and downstairs, those are not the LED commercial version. They're residential incandescent version, and they are failing. And as you can see, they're throughout the whole building. So there's quite a few downstairs that are failing and they need replaced. There's also a set of dome strip lights. We don't have any in here. They're similar to these circles, but they're long, skinny ones. They're just end of life, and they need replaced. It's cheaper, it's more cost effective to replace them with a new updated version, just because technology has changed, and when you try to update older fixtures, you end up paying more money to convert it than you would if you just replace it. There are some grants and different things available that we're going to try to get reimbursed for on this. However, due to the failing needs of a lot of the fixtures, I need to do it either way. So hopefully we can get some reimbursed funding from some grant money that we are positive that we can get some money back on. One more thing, the cost of this is pretty expensive. It's $275 plus $15,000 for engineering. Engineering involved in this lighting system in this library is quite extensive. So it's not an easy task to redo it. Because every time you redo it with new models, you have to change how those models are used in the wiring. So it has to be re-engineered. That and grant and funding requirements for the state require, since it's over the $250,000 that we have to get it engineered. Half of the cost in that is labor. So it's just very time consuming to take the fixtures down and apart and put new ones in. Slow work. Next one is the Lewiston City Hall windows on the west side of City Hall. That is the weather side of the building. The windows in City Hall, almost all of them are original windows from when the building was built. So they're made of wood. The ones on the west side have served a good life. Because they've lasted a long time considering their exposure to the weather and so on, but they're rotting away, and you can literally feel the breeze coming through the windows on that side, so they need to be replaced. The reason they're so expensive is because they're custom sized to fit those windows and to match them to the old style of the windows. That increases your cost extensively. That is why. And then the trim work inside is really beautiful. However, that requires somebody that is very good at working with wood to be the one to install the windows. So that also increases your cost. In Carnegie Library, we need to do the outside paint. And it is also at end of life. A lot of the wood in the soffit and trim is the original soffit and trim. And because it's on the historical list registry, we have to repair and replace anything that's damaged or rotten or anything identically as it was originally built. And that adds some cost to it. Some of the The detail work up around the trim work on the, by the soffits and the corbels need replaced. They do have a process where you can mold them and then replicate the mold and put the mold back up, so you don't have to actually pay for someone to hand carve a piece. They have new technology where you can make a mold of it and copy it, which saves us a lot, but it still comes in just under $100,000 to get that done. That's something we can't just keep letting go, or we're gonna have some definite issues with rotting wood. Police training and traffic control, roof replacement. These are the last 2 roofs with that failed roofing product that the city unfortunately got. We've replaced all of them, but these 2, I'm excited to get these 2 finally done, and we can be done with the damaged roofs. I've got quotes and people in place ready to do them when you are. These are just some pictures of some of the surfaces on top of the roofs. You can see the seams have come apart. If you were able to zoom in on these photos, you can see like a open check mark pattern where the material has wore out on the roof. And water is getting in under the roof. With that, I've got the fire stations, and the fire chief's going to go over that for you.
Thank you, Valerie. Greg Reitmeyer, your fire chief. Council, pleased to report back to you essentially what you had requested last May when we decided not to go forward with Station 4. You had asked for the improvements to be made to the fire stations and to address the immediate safety needs. As we looked at Station 4 and began some of that project work, we had an assumption that we were operating on, that there was diesel particulate matter, which is a carcinogen, and that it was on the walls and the ceiling, and we wanted to take care of that and mitigate that. As we moved into the living area at Station 4, there's a glued-on acoustical ceiling tile that's porous, as well as some cedar siding that's porous. And we didn't know if we would need to actually replace that or if we could seal it up, or what we were looking at there. So we got an industrial hygienist to come out, test those materials, test the air samples, and they did the other 2 stations while they were here. We've received back to that, and I provided that to you last week, the report from the industrial hygienist that said that there were significant amounts of diesel particulate matter in the air, as well as on the CMU and drywall surfaces and the acoustical ceiling tiles. And they made the assumption that it would be in the carpet, although they didn't tear up the carpet and test the carpet. They recommended replacement of that. So the good news was that there were no carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and VOCs. VOCs are something that if you tested right now, likely in here you would get. It just comes off of carpet and things like that, that's newer materials. So we were glad that wasn't there, but we did find the diesel particulate matter and in concentrations that were significant enough that we needed to deal with them. We met together when we got that report as a stakeholder group representing, we had members from labor, we had our city's risk manager, the facilities supervisor, as well as Parks Department leadership. And we kind of broke this down into a 3-phase plan of what we can do right now, what we need to get a little bit more information so we would know what to do, and then kind of a long-term plan as we look at our station facilities. So in the first 6 months, we looked at how can we do some mitigation things. Immediately, we took steps to get the air quality improved. Now that we had a measurement of the air quality, we knew that there was diesel particulate matter in the air actively right now. The facilities group immediately ordered MERV 13 filters to go into our heating air conditioning units, and we began to do that process. Those run about $800 a month. They have to be changed out monthly because they're a high efficiency filter, but lots of surface area, very small micron measurements, but they do clog up pretty quickly. And our HVAC systems were not designed or engineered to have that kind of restriction in their airflow. So we have to make sure we're keeping those at a good spot. A long-term plan for that is to go to portable HEPA units. This is what's being done in industry, and healthcare industry, where it's a portable unit that has its own fan and everything, and they can clean about 1,700 square feet for the units that we're looking at. The next phase for that was to look at cleaning and painting all of the wall surfaces, replacing all the ceiling tiles, address the glue-on ceiling tiles since they're likely to contain asbestos either in the tile or the glue that's holding it on. And we wanted to look at, can we seal it in place and leave it? Or if we start to disturb it, then we have an asbestos mitigation issue that we have to deal with that. Carpet removal, and then figure out what to do with the flooring where we pull the carpet up. Either can we totally do things or just a temporary fix so that it's safe while we figure out a better carpet in phase 2, not better carpet, a better flooring. And then lastly, in phase 1 is to engage a consultant to help us with design and development of engineering ideas that will take care of the separation. If you remember with Station 4, we talked about a hot zone and a cold zone and how we separate that living space from the apparatus bay. And then we utilize HVAC units to create a positive pressure in the living space so you don't get the air from the diesel area moving into the living space. What we're looking at for this phase 1, Valerie mentioned to you $150,000. That is for the mitigation steps. There's an additional $3,000 for the HEPA filtration units and $5,000 for UV treatment in our HVACs. And then finally, $18,000 for our consultant for the design process. So the total ask for that this evening is $176,000 of the reserve building funds to be allocated so we can start moving forward on those projects. Phase 2, looking out past 6 months, is once we get the consultant on site and look at, get some drawings together and some plans of how can we create a double door system with an airlock, get that positive pressure going. Look at our strategic plan. We already have in our strategic plan some cancer mitigation measures that have been put on hold since 2014 as we kept going, well, we're going to build a fire station, we're going to build a fire station. We kept moving that down. And so we've got some cancer mitigation things in there. And then look at that and try to get that all ready for you so that we can go into the 25 budget with some of those hard plans and then make those decisions about where the council would like to take the overall picture. And then finally, phase 3, we're looking out past that year, looking at the things that were identified in the station analysis, looking at the locations that we have to discuss about and what our overall long-term strategy is going to be, and then working with council on how we can be creative in identifying our priorities and our funds and the overall picture of the whole city there. That is all I have there. This is just one picture, and it's kind of hard, but if you look up there towards the top on your left, you see 3 white squares. That's actually not 3 squares. That's or anything different. That's just the wall where it was cleaned, and you can kind of see the soot build up, and that's indicative of all 3 stations. Most of you, if not all of you, have been and visited the stations, and you've seen how the soot buildup is there. The good news is what we're finding in the industrial hygiene report kind of showed us that what we're getting in the air sampling appears to be off-gassing. When we fired up the trucks and had them running with the exhaust system hooked up and stuff, we didn't see numbers increase in the apparatus bay. At one station, we saw numbers increase in the living area during that time, and that's a little concerning about what is happening with the pressure in the building. Sometimes where that air makeup is coming, when you turn on a big sucking hose, sometimes if the airflow is not mitigated and you don't have the right fresh air coming in, then it pulls it toward the wrong area of the station. Again, something beyond me, but we want to get that engineer in here to look at that and say, no, this is what you need to do. Here's the design things you need to do, and get that going. So I stand for any questions on the fire station portion of this.
Thank you, Chief. Councilors, any questions for the chief? Councilor Spickelmeyer.
Mayor, Chief, so, and you might have covered it, but you talk faster than I can listen.
Sorry.
So in the mitigation plan, so the firefighters won't be impacted, they can still live in the buildings, stations while they're doing all this?
The station for mitigation will be a question about the living area and if we have to get into asbestos mitigation. And when we scope that with a contractor request or whatever, Valerie and I have talked about that we if we scope it properly, we think we can get them to be cut down to 1 to 2 days that they would have to be out of that area. It's going to inconvenience them no matter what. I mean, if you're going to strip everything down, wash all the walls, and put 3 coats of paint on, it's gonna be in the way, and we'll work around them. The firefighters will do that, and we'll still maintain our response profile out of those general areas so that we can meet the community's needs. Thank you.
Counselor Clayburgh?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Chief, I wasn't present at the meeting where the go-ahead on the new Fire Station 4 was going to be been canceled. Are we just blowing that off and we're not looking at moving Fire Station 4?
That's a fantastic question. I think the longer term answer is we need to work together on that. I believe there's information within the station analysis study that shows some things. When we move into this phase 3, I'd like to work with city GIS, also with some response studies that we can have done and really look at where's the best place to put the stations. I think 2 of them, the plan calls that they need to be moved. I think those are big issues, because now we're looking at, how do you acquire property in premium areas? What's the right place in a total new construction? I think Station 2, the one shining star there is it doesn't need to be moved. It's perfectly positioned. There's extra land there, and it's on a good road system, and it's positioned for our growth out towards the east. But that is what my intent is on in the phase 2, phase 3 is to bring back to you, hey, here's where we're at, here's the data and the information, and then we'll start working on that.
Counselor Forsman?
Which obviously the end goal would be to try to move that station altogether, Station 4. But with the health risk, if we left it, we don't have a lot of time to leave that, right? Because it's not healthy at all, and probably the cancer risk is pretty high for those that are working in that station. Am I correct on that?
I'm one man's opinion reading the studies that we have, and I appreciate the council supporting us getting those studies. All 3 stations have unhealthy air, and that's the presumption is being caused by the off-gassing of the contaminated surfaces. So for right now, not knowing a crystal ball and when we can replace stations and what we can do, it's great to have that long-term plan, but I think we've waited since 2014 is the first documents I've read. And so it's really easy to look at this. And if honestly, if we were saying, hey, 2 years from now, we're going to have a new station, then we would say, okay, well, maybe we don't spend a lot of money on that station. We get the air cleaned up. We run with the $800 filter every month, and we keep the air as clean as we can. I just don't see that. And I think we're all in agreement, as I've discussed that with you, each of you. There's tough decisions ahead, and there's not a ton of money. So I think that the best thing for us to do right now, while we have some of this building reserve fund that was set aside originally for a fire station, that we at least address these things. And it's, I mean, when we get done, we're going to be talking some serious money to build some walls and change some things around. And it's probably going to affect the HVAC system. It's going to affect, we need to get the laundry facilities addressed that are in the strategic plan, the station alerting that's addressed in the strategic plan. So we have the, some heart saver tones in our stations, and we're not, alerting the firefighters in an unhealthy manner. So there's a lot of work to do there, but I think that we just have to phase it in and be realistic about what the funds are, and then we'll get creative. The mayor and I will get creative.
Thank you.
Counselor Lidke?
Thanks, Chief. So I just want to clarify, the $150,000 estimate covers all 3 of our current fire stations to mitigate the air quality.
Along with another 26,000 that was the original mitigation plan, was the part that Valerie was she took that piece, and we had some other people working on the project to get other a consultant in the air handling issues for another $26,000. So it's $176,000 total.
Follow up,
Counselor Lidke?
just for a comment. I appreciate this because in my mind, this serves your entire crew instead of just one facility. And when we talk about the safety of our men and women, I think we need to try to get big picture as best we can. And this will allow us to work on a solid plan for moving forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I appreciate those who've worked this problem before us. They thought they had a quicker solution that just changed, the environment changed. I appreciate your support.
Counselor Spicklemeyer?
Thank you, Mayor. So Chief, just for clarification, so the 150 or the 170, you said that covers all 3 phases or phase 1?
No, sir, just phase 1.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that. I don't know, phase 2 and 3, I would be guessing, and I don't want to guess.
Chief, if you haven't done so already, could you forward the industrial hygienist report to the city council? I don't know if you have.
It was attached to the email I sent on Friday.
The second one, okay. Yeah. I did review that, thank you for that.
It's some exciting reading. Microns, nanometers, I mean,
Counselor Kleber?
I just, kind of an editorial comment I get, but my concern is, and I'm all good with what we're talking about doing here, because I know the stations needs work. But the whole plan for quite a few years has been to work towards getting a new station. And I really, really would hate to see us burn through a pile of money that has been saved to create a new fire station for some short-term goal on a station that I think pretty much everybody's agreed. You know, and looking at some of the notes in here, that not necessarily a total demo on the inside of the building, but for the existing Station 4, I think it's just throwing money down a hole, my opinion.
Can I speak to that one? You would think that would be the case, but the diesel residue, unfortunately, it exists and it's there and it's not safe.
Speak up, please.
And the diesel residue that is there on the surfaces in the fire stations, we didn't know that was there before when we were doing all this other planning, but we've found out since it's there and it is not safe. I did my best to find the most reputable, affordable abatement team I could find to give us the best price, because I knew it would be expensive. But they're willing to live in an abated facility with no ceiling and some missing wall pieces and missing flooring, just to be in a safer environment, one without the diesel particulate. So I think spending the cost to get rid of that issue is money well spent. It's how you go forward with that. You have a little more time and discussion on how they want to do that and what you want to, how it needs to be planned. We don't know those answers yet. But I think that's a pretty fair price for 3 full facilities. We're taking down all the ceilings, removing all the carpet, washing down every wall, painting every wall, and sealing every wall. That's a lot of work for that money. Does that make sense?
I'm fine with that. But I will say, in my years out in the council, we've known about the diesel in those buildings for a very long time. This is not something new.
Councilor Kleber, I appreciate your editorial on it. It's tough to spend money on something that you know needs to be fixed. It's just that I'm in a position right now where I got to take care of the crews.
Sure.
And I know that you appreciate that, but yeah,
Certainly.
we want to hit the sweet spot and get moving on the rest of the plan. Hopefully by the time we're looking at budget, we're looking at June this year, we're going to have a good plan.
Okay.
Right, Mayor?
We're gonna work
We're
on
going
it.
to work hard on it.
Yep.
All right, thank you very much.
I never got,
Counselor Portman?
Sorry.
no, not for you. I never got to ask her questions. I didn't get to pick on her. Only a couple. They won't take very long. And just to clarify, so some of the light bulbs have fallen out of those light domes, those kinds of light domes?
Yes, downstairs too. They literally fell out. They just have a slip-in unit where it slips in and there's these little, you may have seen them before, they have like a little bubble in there. And as it slides in, it kind of locks the light bulb in. Well, as you replace them in and out, they wear out over time and it just
Kind of.
fell out, so.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you. And then I'm assuming with having the lighting changed, it's gonna be, it would be more efficient lighting. I'm assuming
Oh,
we're
yes.
replacing it with a lot more efficient lighting.
Much more efficient, way better in power savings.
Okay, and then also with obviously the window replacement, between the window replacement and the lighting, I would suspect you would see an overall lower in your electrical bill.
Most definitely, especially the lighting, you're also gonna see a huge savings in your HVAC. Because this building, the air conditioning units run all year long. And it's because of the lighting is heating up the room, but LED lights do not heat up rooms. And so that will help that power bill tremendously.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just like to make sure that we say that for the public aware, like, yeah, we're spending money now, but this is gonna be a cost savings in the future, for those. I think my last question was, and maybe we've already discussed this, on selling a library, the Carnage Library. Have we ever thought about why we're still leasing that, or is that potential to sell and not own that building anymore?
You know, I'm not privy to that information. But I know we need to repair the exterior of it. We can't let it go. I mean, I don't know where you're at with keeping it or not keeping it, but
Right, we can,
I
okay,
need to repair it. And I need to, because it's a historical, I need to get approval way ahead so that I can go through all the commissions and get everything approved and everything planned and everything scheduled by next summer.
okay,
That's
Thank-
what I'm asking now.
okay, thank you.
Counselor Speckelmeyer.
Thank you, Mayor. So Valerie, on this, like for FY '24, is this a series of requests that are going to come forward for deferred maintenance, or is this the last one for FY '24?
This is a series.
So I have the same concerns as Councilor Kleberg in that I'd like to resolve the fire station issue, you know, before we deplete it too much. I like seeing, getting some of the projects done, but it was tip of the iceberg, a little bit skeptical.
Counselor Schroeder.
Thank you, Valerie. I don't think the chief has to come up for this, but the fire stations, there's two of them that if we could move them, we would move them. But those buildings that we would be moving out of, if that happened, would have to be mitigated of this diesel anyway, or we would have no value in selling them. It would be just be to destroy them rather than have something come back. So I personally feel that first of all is the health of our firemen and anyone else that's in there for any length of time, and saving, you know, having something value at the end of it. And I think that what you're doing is wonderful. You're doing it right, and I applaud you and I support you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Counselor Towsley.
Thank you. I think when we were going through the whole idea about the new fire station, I think everyone, mostly, a huge majority believes that it's a necessary thing that we need to do. And it ended up being a perfect storm of huge costs that went out of control for most of us who thought that that wasn't. I think everybody on this, sitting at this council, has every intention of putting a new fire station in at some point. I don't doubt that for a minute. But I think it's also important, when we were talking earlier, that we need the public to know that, you know, we don't just go out and buy new toys. We need to take care of the old toys too. We just don't have a yard full of junk. And these are things that need to be mitigated, and I hope that the city council will continue to support what Ms. Warren is trying to do to keep the wheels on the bus. I'm using mixed metaphors here. Make sure that the toys are all in working order so that we don't have other issues that come up. And obviously for the safety of every one of the people who work within those structures. So I vigorously support this.
Mayor,
Counselor Lidke,
for a motion,
motion's in order.
I'd move to approve the expenditure of funds not to exceed $745,000 from the Building Infrastructure Reserve Account for the projects identified by staff and listed in the memo from Tim Barker dated November 29th, 2023.
Second.
Been moved by Counselor Lidke, seconded by Counselor Towsley, to approve the expenditure of funds from the Building Infrastructure Reserve Account not to exceed $745,000 for the projects identified by staff and listed in the memo from Tim Barker dated November 29th, 2023. Is there discussion? All those in favor, please
Mr. Mayor,
signify by. Chief?
If I'm not out of order for discussion, the additional $26,000 was not listed in that memo for the air handling and the consultant.
Chief, I think 20,000 was added to the total. It doesn't add up to exactly 26,000. You're correct. Unless the council would like to,
I can
the
amend
motion
my
maker would
motion.
like to amend her motion.
I will amend my motion.
So if you amend, councilors, if I could just speak freely here. The Lewiston Fire Department Stations 1, 2, and 4 immediate needs, phase 1 is $176,000. The Lewiston City Library lighting replacement is $290,000, not the $275,000 listed in the Tim Barker memo. And then the traffic control shop replacement, roof replacement, I think is $55,000, not the $50,000 listed in the memo. So if the motion maker and the second are okay with those adjustments, I will reread the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. $6,000 more. $71.
Oh, that's what I had.
$771.
You,
775.
Motion.
Okay. I would amend my motion.
let's-
Mayor,
Oh,
right, Mayor. Okay, thank you. I didn't see it on your notes. Sorry.
Counselor Lidke.
I would amend my motion to a total of 700, to not exceed a total of $775,000.
Yeah.
Is second okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, counselors, I'm going to restate the motion. The motion is to approve the expenditure of funds from the Building Infrastructure Reserve Account for the projects identified, from the Building Infrastructure Reserve Account not to exceed $775,000 for the projects identified by staff and listed in the memo from Tim Barker dated November 29, 2023, as amended by this motion. Is there discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Are we good down below there, Tanya and Bree and Jennifer? We captured it all properly? Thank you, Chief and Valerie and
Yes,
Tim, for
thank
being
you.
here tonight. Counselors, next up, we move to item D, ordinances. Number 1, first, second, and third readings. Ordinance 4905, considering amending Chapter 43 of the Lewiston City Code to add definitions of community resource officer and community development director and replace code enforcement officer with community resource officer and replace support services commander with community development director throughout Chapter 43. This is an action item. And we have our Assistant City Attorney, Brian Drury, here. Brian, please introduce yourself for the record. Remember to speak up loudly and clearly. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Breanne Drury, Assistant City Attorney. This ordinance before you today simply replaces Support Services Commander with Community Development Director and Code Enforcement Officer with Community Resource Officer. As you all know, we now have a new position under Community Development with the Code Resource Officer, and he will be dealing with the public nuisances under Chapter 43. So we wanted the language to reflect that and also have the appeals process go through community development rather than the police department. I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Brand. Councilors? Councilor Towsley?
I'll make the motion to combine the first, second, and third readings and waive one reading in full of ordinance number 4905.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Towsley, second by Councilor Forsman, to combine the first, second, and third readings and waive one reading in full of ordinance number 4905. Is there discussion? Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Councilor Towsley?
Yeah, I'd like to also make the motion to approve the first, second, and third readings of ordinance number 4905.
Second.
Been moved by Councilor Towsley, second by Councilor Forsman, to approve the first, second, and third readings of ordinance number 4905. Is there discussion or amendments? Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Clerk Rocky?
Approving the first, second, and third readings of ordinance number 4905, an ordinance of the City of Lewiston amending Section 43-1 of the Lewiston City Code to remove unnecessary definitions and add definitions for Community Development Director and Community Resource Officer, amending Sections 43-2, 43-3, 43-4, 43-13, 43-22, 43-23, 43-24, and 43-33 to replace Code Enforcement Officer with Community Resource Officer, and to replace Support Services Commander with Community Development Director, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Clerk Rocky. Councilors, next up, item 2, second, third readings. Item A, ordinance 4904, considering repealing and reserving section 35-82 of the Lewiston City Code related to infraction penalties associated with parking restrictions. This is an action item, and again, we have our Assistant City Attorney, Breanne Drury, here if you have any questions, councilors. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Lidke?
I'd move to combine the second and third readings and waive the third reading in full of ordinance number 4904.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Lidke, seconded by Councilor Schroeder, to combine the second and third readings and waive the third reading in full of ordinance number 4904. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Lidke?
I would also move to approve the second and third readings of ordinance number 4904.
Second.
Been moved by Councilor Lidke, seconded by Councilor Towsley, to approve the second and third readings of ordinance number 4904. Is there discussion or amendments? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Clerk Rocky?
Approving the second and third readings of ordinance number 4904, an ordinance of the City of Lewiston repealing and reserving Section 35-82 of the Lewiston City Code related to infraction penalties associated with parking restrictions and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Clerk Rocky. Councilors, next we move to item 3, adoption and approval of ordinance summaries. Item A is ordinance 4905. It's an
Mayor?
action item. Item B is ordinance 4904, also an action item. Councilor Lidke?
I would move to adopt ordinance numbers 4905 and 4904 and approve the related ordinance summaries.
Been moved by Councilor Lidke, seconded by Councilor Schroeder, to adopt ordinance numbers 4905, 4904, and approve the related ordinance summaries. Is there discussion? Clerk Rocky?
Council President Lidke,
Aye.
Councilor Towsley,
Aye.
Councilor Forsman,
Aye.
Councilor Schroeder,
Aye.
Councilor Kleber,
Aye.
Councilor Spiegelmeier.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Councilors and Clerk Ronke. Next, we move to item E, Sourcewell Purchase Street Sweeper. Considering accepting the price proposal submitted by Owen Equipment per the Sourcewell contract number 093021-ELG in the amount of $386,528 and authorizing staff to move forward with the purchase of the street sweeper before the quoted price expires on December 29th, 2023. This is an action item. Councilors, if you have questions this evening, we have our Equipment Services Manager here, Mr. Braun. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion. Councilor Schroeder?
I move to accept the proposal submitted by Owen Equipment per the Sourcewell contract 093021-ELG and authorize the city staff to purchase the street.
I'll second for discussion.
Been moved by Councilor Schroeder, second by Councilor Towsley to accept the price proposal submitted by Owen Equipment per the Sourcewell contract number 093021-ELG and authorize city staff to purchase the street sweeper. Is there discussion? Councilor Kleber?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question, I guess.
Councilor?
I'm just not remembering going through the budget session this year, if that was a line item that we were discussing when we approved the budget.
Council, I'm going to ask if Mr. Braun would come up to the podium and help us understand why this item is before us tonight. Our Equipment Services Manager, welcome. Please introduce yourself and remember to speak up loudly and clearly so those at home can hear what you have to say.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Robin Braun, City Fleet Manager. This item it is up in its replacement life cycle, is where it's at with the replacement on this piece of equipment.
And can you give a little bit of background on the quote and what happened to our quote and the replacement value and everything else that's going on? A lot of
Yes.
moving parts.
Yes. Equipment we've found in the last couple of years since this COVID, we run into the very same thing with our mowers, what we were used to for prices and took and accommodated for replacement rates, weren't meeting what these pieces of equipment had actually turned out in price. This piece of equipment has gained 1.5 times what it was normally rated at. And they're looking at an increase at the end of December of 3.5% on top of this. I've tried in the past to do a waiting game, hoping that when we go back to purchase that this piece of equipment would be less. It's always proven that it's gained. I've had a piece of equipment, you know, they can jump as much as 40,000 in a year, if not more. And so that's why we're trying to move ahead on this. The replacement piece of equipment is a lot better than the current one. The current one, we're running into a lot of expensive repairs and downtime. So it's not only costing us more in money to repair it, but we aren't even getting to use it because we're waiting for parts and plus just its normal downtime with these breakdowns. The replacement is quite advanced. Instead of having 2 engines to run the same truck, they've developed a system to where this truck only has 1 engine that runs the whole machine. So you're saving on fuel, maintenance. You don't have another engine that's making excessive noise. This new machine, you could drive it through your neighborhood at midnight and it'd sound like a vacuum cleaner going through, not a roaring truck. So these guys would be able to do their work in different hours and in the actual public to where it wouldn't bother or interrupt people at night as well. Because right now with their their operations, they can only do night sweeping downtown area because that's when the businesses are all closed down. They would actually be able to go out through the general public and do stuff at night and catch up and keep up with their regular maintenance that they need to do.
And can you address the concern about the budget question about whether or not you had it in your budget this year and why it's important to replace this piece of equipment now, and maybe why it's important to have the piece of equipment other than night sweeping? I think it fits in with our stormwater programs and things like that also.
Yeah, it was in part of our replacement as our normal replacement for this year. But the benefit of it, you know, with the stormwater being activated to where that's now a separate entity, this machine will do a lot more maintenance as far as, you know, if we can keep it up off of the street, those guys are having to spend less time in repairs and cleaning out in the stormwater system because the same guys that clean the street have to clean up that stormwater system. And if we can't keep that stuff picked up and cleaned up, then they get to spend extra time, and it helps prevent flooding in areas. Because again, if that stuff can't be kept out of the drain systems, then you have the potential for flooding in different areas as well.
And then from the item agenda history sheet, it says Fleet would like to purchase one crosswind single-engine street sweeper utilizing the Sourcewell contract. This item was approved in FY22 by council for Fleet's 23 budget. Unfortunately, due to unavailability of the chassis, we couldn't obtain a quote within the fiscal year 23 timeframe.
Right.
As a result, the plan for replacing the sweeper has been deferred to FY24. Can you just address that briefly, please?
Yeah, because by the time we got to where we could go out for bid on the machine, to the lack of chassis, we weren't able to get a pricing on that. We've run into this with the pickups and stuff. It used to be that manufacturers would build chassis throughout the year, but due to the restrictions on everything, they only open up the build time to the first 3-4 months of the year. And so and they are very limited. They will restrict you on how many that they're going to sell, and we just didn't fall into that grouping of being able to get a chassis. And the other thing, we're trying to get a chassis that is serviced in our area by the dealers here so that the machine doesn't have to go out of town for warranty repair. We could have got a Peterbilt chassis, but the closest service facility is either Tri-Cities or Spokane. So anytime that piece of equipment needs a warranty repair done on it, it's no longer in our hands to be used. It could be out of town 3 weeks to a month in that. And it just isn't feasible to, you know, work with a chassis that we can't get serviced in our own area in a timely fashion.
Councilor Spickelmeyer.
We still okay to answer questions, ask questions, okay?
Yes, please.
So on here, it says in here in the budget impact that the fleet intends to utilize reserve funds to cover the cost differential. So is that fleet reserves or the city reserves?
Fleet reserves.
Huh?
Fleet reserves.
Fleet reserves, so will that impact other equipment that you have to purchase?
Yes, because another thing that we're looking at, and we're getting a committee together to start building requirements for our aerial that is up and coming. That is another piece of equipment that is very expensive, but we're trying to visit a couple other cities that have newer aerials and see how they are fitting with their requirements, because there is fire standard requirements that we have to fall into to build that apparatus, whether it has a platform or is it just one that has a ladder on it. And, you know, depending on those options can really affect, you know, build time and cost of that machine, that piece of equipment.
Counselor Forsman?
Just one question, and then I'll leave you alone. The parts, if I'm getting that correct, are actually probably more cost of increase, or it's not worth replacing the parts because they probably are hefty pennies. I know sometimes older parts and older equipment, and then just replacing it to new actually saves more in the long run. So replacement parts, are they cheaper for the new equipment that would be repurchasing, or about the same?
It varies. I do a lot of shopping for our equipment, for parts and that. I've got a company that I can work with that is an aftermarket company that builds parts and pieces for all of these major companies. And, you know, they're, I don't know, like a Rock Auto to GM. You can get your same quality part, but at a cheaper rate. And I do a lot of that. It saves thousands of dollars doing it that way. But it's just understanding that this piece of equipment is in its worst working environment because it is cleaning up and sucking up very bad abrasives. So the wear items in these pieces of equipment is tremendous. I mean, it's a constant repair, working and keeping them up to speed on everything. And after a while, it gets to the point that you're fighting an endless battle with it.
Is the is the life expectancy of the new equipment that we would be purchasing pretty big? How long do you suspect to get out of the new equipment?
Usually like this one here, I believe is an 09. Yeah, an 09. So, you know, the new ones will be better because one, you don't have an engine that is, the engine that runs the vacuum system on this is running at full RPM the moment you start sweeping. And with the new machine, the other engine, the way it's set up, it doesn't have to do that. So it's going to save a lot in fuel and just maintenance. Because now you've taken oil changes and everything, you know, from 2 engines down to just 1. And the machines are proven. They've been out for several years. They came out probably about 6 years ago. And the first ones, we were kind of looking at them. And it's always best to sit back and wait and see how they work. And they've proven themselves. Other entities around us really like the machines. They work very well.
Counselor Townsley?
Thank you. This unit that we're looking at, this is a new unit?
Yes.
Okay. And the one that we currently have, what would you say the percentage of downtime is, like, say, in a month or in a year, whatever's easiest for you to?
I've had that machine, because the problem is it gets electrical bugs in it because of the wet and the constant vibration and everything. You look at some of the wiring in that machine and it looks like somebody had taken a file every 1/16 of an inch and sit there and grooved the wiring. And that was just because it was vibrating in its tubing that protects it and that. So, you know, there can be times that it'd be down a week, 2 weeks. I've had it down 3 weeks waiting for parts.
In a month?
In 1 month.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Robin. Amy, I'm going to put you on the spot. Is there anything you need to tell the council before I ask them for a vote? Okay, all right, thank you. Councilors, you have a motion before you to accept the price proposal submitted by Own Equipment for the Sourcewell contract number 093021-ELG and authorize city staff to purchase the street sweeper. If there's no more questions or discussion, Clerk Brockey?
Council President Libke? Counselor Towesley?
Aye.
Counselor Forsman?
Yes, I did.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm an aye, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
There was a lot of discussion, I forgot we made a motion, I apologize.
we're shaking your head, so I thought.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think she understands what's happening.
Were you looking for an aye from me?
Counselor
You got it.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Counselor Kleber,
Nay.
Counselor Spickelmeyer.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, counselors. And thank you, Robin, for being with us tonight. Also, back up for us. And Melinda's here too. Counselors, next we move to item 9. There is no item 8 tonight. Items moved from the consent agenda. So we'll move right into number 9, unfinished and new business. Item A, city councilor comments. Comments shall not be related to an item currently before the city council or an item that may come before the city council in the foreseeable future and shall be limited to comments, not discussion. Councilor Towsley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm probably stealing somebody's thunder, but I don't care. This past weekend, my wife and I went to the Civic Theater presentation of Christmas Story, the musical, and it was a wonderful experience. It was an all-star cast of young people involved as well as adults, and that's one of the great things about community theater, when you get all kinds of entities put together. The stage was luscious, the sound was great. It was just a wonderful experience, and I hope that all of you that haven't attended it yet will have the time to do that. And don't worry, they won't shoot your eye out. But it's a great treat. And I also wish to take this time to thank city staff and city council and all the people involved with making this the best place that we can. And it's been a great experience, and I will miss it, but I plan to stay involved in a lot of things that I believe are very important for the community. So you won't not see me anymore. I just won't be sitting up here. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Item B, city boards and commission liaison updates, if there are any today.
Mayor.
Counselor
sorry.
Schroeder.
We did have a PWAC meeting, which is Public Works Advisory Commission. And it was very robust, and we came to some things that we want to move forward on. And so Councilor Forsman is going to make a request that we have an agenda topic from it when we come to that. But it's been very enlightening. The Public Works Commission is very, very active, and a lot of learning to do each time. Good.
Excuse me. Mayor comments. Well, I guess I'd just like to thank you, Counselor Towsley, for serving the people well in the city of Lewiston. I know that you're very passionate. You care deeply about the city and about its residents, and did your best to move things forward. So I just want to say thank you for that. I enjoyed working with you, even for the times when we didn't agree. We had some healthy discussions in the office, but they benefited, I think, me greatly. So thank you for your time. Item D, advisory board and commission appointments, action item. Number 1, this is for the Business Improvement District, considering reappointing Doug Bauer, Wendy Price, and Dennis Orton into 2-year terms. This is an action item. I move to approve the reappointment of Doug Bauer to a 2-year term on the Business Improvement District Advisory Board.
Second.
It's been moved by Mayor Johnson, seconded by Councilor Schroeder, to approve the reappointment of Doug Bauer to a 2-year term on the Business Improvement District Advisory Board. In favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. I move to approve the reappointment of Wendy Price to a 2-year term on the Business Improvement District Advisory Board.
Second.
Been moved by Mayor Johnson, seconded by Councilor Schroeder, to approve the reappointment of Wendy Price to a 2-year term on the Business Improvement District Advisory Board. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I move to approve the reappointment of Dennis Ortman to a 2-year term on the Business Improvement District Advisory Board.
Second.
Been moved by Mayor Johnson, seconded by Councilor Towsley to approve the reappointment of Dennis Ortman to a 2-year term on the Business Improvement District Advisory Board. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we move to item E, agenda topics.
That'd be me.
Councilor Forsman.
I would like to have on a future agenda to make a plan to make a city-wide capital improvement plan for Monday, January 8th. I guess I can't speak on it until I get a second, so.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. So the reason for this is in our Public Works meeting, we went over the capital improvement plan, but there was not a lot of meat into that plan for the public to be able to really know where the money is being spent and what they're in their projected plans and what revenues they would come in. So this citywide capital improvement plan would be a very deep dive into what monies need, what capital improvement projects we have, and make it a little easier for those to understand where pockets of money are coming from where and who's paying for what and how long it might take to get there. And so this was at the request of them in efforts to be more transparent for our public as far as our city's improvements. So that is why I'm asking that this get put on the Monday, January 8th meeting.
Councilor Lidkey.
Confused, are we making additions to our current capital improvement plan? Because we have a pretty extensive.
So the current one is not a citywide.
Councilor
Sorry.
Forsman.
Sorry. The city is not a citywide, and this one would go, and it only kind of covers one aspect, is what they pointed out, and doing a citywide would put, would be an addition to, basically, and more detail on.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Lidkey.
I'm still confused. The capital improvement plan that has like 187 projects on it is not citywide?
It's not describing, sorry, Mayor, it's not, I'm trying to remember everything that was discussed. It's not putting the details of where all the money would come into, like what revenues we would get, because it only shows like a certain part of the road being fixed, but doesn't show also we need to fix the storm water under that, and then we have to take money from there in order to complete a project. So it's not showing, in order to complete a project, what are all the mechanisms within that to complete that project. It's only showing a piece of that. Maybe Schroeder has some more insight.
Councilor Meyer.
So it's just explaining the process, not the projects themselves.
Say that again, explain the process.
Councilor Meyer. Councilor Forsman couldn't hear you.
Just explaining the process, not talking about projects themselves.
Yes. It's explaining the same projects, but in more detail, I guess. So yeah, if that answers your question.
Councilor Schroeder.
Thank you. We were working on the transportation CIP. And the number one, which council advanced to number one, is the downtown corridor 6, Main Street and D Street and several other facets of it. And so when we're looking at that, it's only taking care of if we did the surface of the streets that they're talking about and do the flow, traffic flows, all these kind of things. What we found out that we really want to know is when we take up that street, what all are we going to take out of the hole and fix and replace? What are all those components? Now, is that kind of making sense? So we're not creating another plan. We want to look at the citywide plan that shows, and we did right here in this room, I think it was 2020, we had an outreach, public outreach, and it showed and talked about all those things at one time. And so that is what our group came to request is to have all that information in front of us when we're looking at the transportation CIP plan, because that only takes care of the surface. That doesn't deal with the vaults under the streets. It doesn't deal with the water pipes. It doesn't deal with the sewer and what components need to be put in that or taken out that are down there. So that's what they want to see, is all that layering and the costs and where the money's coming from. That help makes sense.
Clerk Brocky, did you have something for us?
Yeah, so are you wanting it to go on a work session agenda or a regular meeting?
Oh, I guess it would be a work session.
Because the January work session has been canceled, so our next meeting would be the regular meeting on the 8th.
I think that.
Wanted to
does
clarify
sound
that.
like more of a work session. Yes.
I think a work session would make sense, and also just to speak on one more, this coming Wednesday, they're gonna have an actual layout. Someone from the committee is bringing an example of what that would look like, where she's seen other cities implement similar things. So that might, when we have that work session, bring to light and give more of a picture of what we're actually trying to accomplish.
So, Counselor, I need to ask you, are you talking about transportation only?
No,
That's why they call it a citywide.
Because we have capital plans in those other areas also. And so are you going to, and I have to ask this seriously, are you going to bring a plan together that combines all of these? Or are you expecting city staff to show up with all of the different plans that they have and lay them on the table and then have council review them?
go ahead.
Counselor Forsman,
Oh, yeah, sorry. Well, the intent was that, and I think they talked about in the meeting that the staff would bring the ones that they have, and we would put it in all one document that citizens can look at and see all the detailed information, so that we know exactly which projects, what funds need to come out of where, and what things are gonna be needing to be replaced and fixed on.
Counselor Schroeder?
I'm not really sure that it was one document complete. I think we wanted to look at all the components, but it was a very robust meeting at that point, and so I'm not sure I don't really think we wanted to create another document. I think we wanted to see all the components that need to go into this Main Street and D Street when it gets torn up, what goes down and what finances do we have to work on it? Because it is the number one, and council did move it, and that's why it was brought up. Council had moved it to the number one position, and we were asked why council did that, and so the two of us kind of told us what we thought, the reason why, and because it's a very detailed project. It's not just the surface street. It has a lot of moving parts and components, and that is where the conversation went.
Counselor Lidkey?
I think for a comment, maybe a question, I'm fine with public engagement, but I also feel like the process that we don't necessarily need to come to us. We have the information, so wouldn't it just be that we have information available to the public that's interested? Because again, I encourage the public to be overly involved, but we've had open houses for our capital improvement plans and nobody shows up. So are we spending time in a work session over information so that we understand what that project entails? Because I think that is going to be coming no matter what as we move forward. Or is this about public engagement, and can we just bypass us and go straight to public engagement if that's what the staff wants to do?
Counselor Schroeder?
I think we have a meeting this Wednesday. Yeah. We'll caucus with that and get back to you.
Yeah,
later.
I think the whole intent was they wanted me to bring it to council, as I think they were kind of wanting council's direction and help on how to move forward so that they're an effective committee that is working towards engaging the public and identifying areas within our and our public works that need fixed. And so I think they were wanting a combined, the city council to be involved in that a little bit.
Council, are you talking about the Public Works Advisory?
Yes, Public
Committee?
Works Advisory Committee.
Okay.
That was the whole reason they wanted me to bring it, to have it go to the council. But we can bring it back Wednesday. They can come up with an example and then we can revisit if it's needed.
Well, I know we're not supposed to discuss these. We're just supposed to kind of introduce the idea and vote on them, but I wanted to be clear on what it is that you're asking. So if there's no further questions, I'm going to look at Clerk Rocky and maybe our legal to make sure everybody understands the motion. Try to restate it. The motion is to bring to a council work session on February 6th a discussion on the citywide capital improvement plan. That captures the motion.
I think it does.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Hey.
Motion passes. Councilors, next up, we have Roman numeral 10, adjournment.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Towsley?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Hats off to you.
It's been moved by Councilor Towsley, second by Councilor Kleberg to adjourn. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, ho.